Andres from AA Sports reporting after attending the San Jose Sharks game versus the Toronto Maple Leafs. As you see on the puck, I was once again lucky to get. The San Jose Sharks won 6-5, 2-1 in the penalty shootout. They won versus the Toronto Maple Leafs in a penalty shootout. What a game it was. The Sharks played really well in this game, scoring 5 goals on a very talented Maple Leafs team that included players like Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, William Nylander, and many more talented players on that Maple Leafs side. And for most of this game, the Sharks were outplaying the Maple Leafs. The Maple Leafs, when it was even strength, 6 versus 6 on the ice, including the goalkeepers, for both sides, they were only able to score 1 goal in this game. The other 4 goals came on some sort of extra player advantage on either a power play or in the final minutes when they pulled the goalkeeper off the ice for the extra forward. Honestly, if it wasn't for the Sharks being so inexperienced and flawed on the defensive end of killing power plays outside of Barclay Goodrow, this game could have been much worse for the Maple Leafs. This game for the Maple Leafs in many ways could not have been worse, from conceding a shorthanded goal to their goalkeeper, Joseph Woll, turning the puck over right to Eklund, resulting in Eklund scoring what will probably be the easiest goal of his life. They really should have lost this game in regulation time. But that wasn't what happened. The Maple Leafs managed to make a comeback in a game where they were the inferior team. For the Sharks, the defense, their inconsistency in their ability to kill penalties, to kill extra man advantages. They have been very weak in killing power plays. And the goaltending under Alexander Georgiev have all been a bad problem throughout the year. And those weaknesses and flaws caught up to them in the final minutes, along with some bad puck luck, as Tyler Toffoli, who had a really good game, almost had a hat trick, but his empty net shot ended up bouncing off the post, so bad luck there. In the final minute of the game, with the Sharks leading 5-3, they conceded 2 goals while the Leafs had an empty net. And Toronto tied the game with just 12 seconds left in the third period, forcing overtime. The Sharks again struggled defensively in that final minute, and with the Leafs having an extra forward on the ice, it only made it worse for the Sharks. And of course, it wouldn't be a typical Alexander Georgiev performance without him forgiving. And not only did he forgive, he 5-geved. He conceded 5 goals in this game. To Georgiev's defense, Joseph Woll did make an awful mistake himself, giving up that Eklund goal. So at least he can say he didn't mess up as bad as Woll did. But this stressful pathway to winning this game was definitely preventable for the Sharks. And they did not need to make this game as crazy as it was. But nevertheless, the Sharks still played well, evenly matched them in skills, and for most of the game were better than the Leafs. While the Sharks couldn't score in overtime, they did have a couple close chances, but were unable to score in the overtime period. They were at least able to stop the Maple Leafs from scoring in overtime. Georgiev was able to bounce back and play well in the overtime period, making a couple really good saves. And then in the shootout, Macklin Celebrini and Will Smith had 2 great penalty shots, and Georgiev made 2 big saves on Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner to win the game. A crazy ending to a good performance from the Sharks. It definitely made fans nervous in the arena, but they got the win, and it's a big win for this young team as they grow and develop for the future. And with this win, they officially have more wins than they did last year, so that is something the Sharks fans are happy about as this young team continues to improve and take steps in the right direction. Final score, Sharks win 6-5 in a shootout, 2-1 score in the penalties. Here are the Sharks' grades for this big win against the Toronto Maple Leafs. Offensive front, A+. Tyler Toffoli, Colin Graff, Alex Wenberg, and William Eklund were the 4 goal scorers in this game. And Will Smith and Macklin Celebrini scored the 2 penalty shots in the shootout. Tyler Toffoli scored the first goal of the game 8 minutes into the first period as he and Lucas Carlson crashed the net. Then in the final 3 minutes of the first period, the Maple Leafs went on the power play, and the Sharks not only did a great job killing this power play, but they managed to score a shorthanded goal. Colin Graff manages to intercept a pass in the Sharks' defensive zone, and he takes the puck all the way in an amazing solo play and scores, giving the Sharks a 2-1 lead entering the second period. It was a world-class play from Colin Graff. Then in the second period, the Maple Leafs lose the puck in their attacking zone again, and it is Alex Wenberg who recovers the puck, and like Colin Graff, he takes the puck all the way himself on a 2-on-1 play along with Toffoli. Wenberg catches the Leafs goalkeeper by surprise and takes the shot and scores, giving the Sharks a 3-1 lead in the game at that point. Then, with just over 6 minutes remaining in the second period, after Austin Matthews scored and got one back for the Maple Leafs, Eklund scored what my parents described as a zapatazo goal. It was a goal off his own shoe, his own skate, and one of the craziest, weirdest, and funniest goals I have ever seen. It was a weird goal because in hockey, the rule is that goals where a player intentionally kicks, throws, gloves, or otherwise directs the puck into the goal net by any means other than that player's stick, those goals do not count. They can be deflected unintentionally or deflect off other defenders in front trying to block the shot, but the goal has to primarily come from an initial shot while using a stick. In this case, while the puck went off Eklund's skate, it still counted as the referees did not find any intent from Eklund to kick the puck into the net. I mean, seriously, it was truly the craziest, weirdest, and funniest goal I have seen in a Sharks game. And I posted a short on my channel as well with the replay of it if you want to check that out. Maple Leafs goalkeeper Joseph Woll, while in the crease, his own crease, is trying to play the puck as Eklund skates in quickly to put pressure. And Woll, I still don't know what he was trying to accomplish there. He could have passed the puck to the left of him away from Eklund. I guess Joseph Woll tried to play it center and nutmeg Eklund, but instead ended up shooting the puck directly off William Eklund's skate, and it deflects back towards him. And Woll was not able to react in time, and Eklund scored what will likely be the easiest and strangest goal of his career. And it was funny because it was so unexpected. Like, even the fans were late to react to the goal. It was such a crazy looking goal. My parents laughed their asses off when it happened as we saw the replay. It was a zapatazo from Eklund. If football was played like the World Cup, if football was played on ice with skates, that is what it would look like with Eklund as a striker. So good play by Eklund, forcing a mistake from their goalkeeper, which made it 4-2 Sharks. Then in the first 5 minutes of the third period, the Sharks get a penalty call and go on the power play, and Tyler Toffoli scored his second goal of the game, giving the Sharks a 5-3 lead. Macklin, Celebrini, Eklund, and Toffoli were all credited with assists as well, and Macklin, Celebrini, and Smitty scored the 2 penalty shootout goals. Both players put really good finishes on their penalty shots. Macklin, Celebrini, while he didn't score, he had a really good game, played with energy, and his puck skills and passing were really good in this game, as we saw with him getting that secondary assist he made, which was a great pass. Even my parents, who, again, they're not really avid hockey fans, even they noticed how Celebrini was playing with the puck, and they were like, wow, he's good. They could see why he was drafted and is starting at just 18 years old, which is just an incredible accomplishment for Celebrini. And then Celebrini's penalty shot was very clean, ended up being the winning shot. I also really like how even at 18 years old and being a rookie, he showed aspects of good leadership and being a good teammate. At the start of overtime, Georgiev was definitely nervous and frustrated at the fact that the game was even going into overtime. Georgiev knew he forgaved again and was not happy with himself about that. But before the start of overtime, Celebrini skated over to Georgiev, gave him a tap on the pad with his stick and a pat on the shoulder, and he gave him some encouraging words, telling him it's okay, that, hey, Georgiev, you got this. We trust you. We believe in you. And that, I think, helped Georgiev stay in it and play as good as he did in overtime. So good job by Celebrini there, being a good teammate. And Smitty, like Celebrini, had a good game as well. Smitty had a couple of breakaways and good passes, plus an assist. So overall, a great game from the offensive front. A very high-scoring performance with both their veteran players and young stars playing well. And Cameron Lund, who made his NHL debut, had a decent game given it was his very first NHL game. I wish him the best of luck as he begins his professional career with the Sharks. He got to take the rookie lap, an NHL tradition. Welcome to the NHL, Cameron Lund. Now, moving into the defensive end of the performance grades. Defenseman, B. Shakir Mukhamadullin and Mario Ferraro were the starters for the Sharks and played on the top defensive line. And I thought they both had a really solid game. I was a fan of how they performed versus the Leafs. Mukhamadullin did look shaky in the final 8 minutes of the third period. But outside of that, he was good for most of this game. He held his own against a more experienced Maple Leafs team. I'll say the same thing for Mario Ferraro, one of the more experienced defensemen on the ice. He played well alongside Shakir. Ferraro got an assist in this game as well. On the second defensive line, you had Luca Cagnoni, who was playing in just his third NHL game. Alongside Vincent Desharnais, Luca Cagnoni did not have as good of a game as he did versus the Boston Bruins. He had a couple of good moments from what I saw on the ice, but for the most part against this Maple Leafs team, he played like his age, and you could tell he is still new to the NHL and is still learning and developing for the future. He didn't have the best of games, but it was mostly due to inexperience and not making awful mistakes. I can't really say what I said for Cagnoni for Desharnais. He was probably the worst defenseman for the Sharks in this game. He had a failed clearance attempt with the puck in the first period, which led to William Nylander's power play goal, which at the time tied the game 1-1. His passing was not the best in comparison to players like Celebrini, Timothy Liljegren, and Lucas Carlsson. Which brings up the third line of defensemen in Timothy Liljegren and Lucas Carlsson. Timothy Liljegren playing against his former team, definitely something to watch entering this game. I thought both Liljegren and Carlsson had pretty good games. Liljegren was probably the best defenseman on the ice. He played really well defensively and contributed on offense with good passing and movement of the puck, getting 2 assists in this game. A great pass to Carlsson on the build-up to that first Toffoli goal. Liljegren played great hockey in this game. As for his defensive partner, Lucas Carlsson, I really liked how he was playing on the ice. He played with energy, very aggressively, playing with confidence on the ice. And he has made an instant positive impact for the Sharks offensively. He got the primary assist on Tyler Toffoli's first goal and now has 3 points in just 2 games for the Sharks. So you did have some errors from the Sharks, and of course they struggled in regards to killing extra player advantages. In the case of Cagnoni, you have a player that is new and learning, but outside of that, the defense played really well, and I saw more positives than negatives from the defensemen in this game, so a B grade is fair here. Enforcers, B-. There was one fight in this game near the end of the second period that the referee stopped quickly. Zach Ostapchuk cross-checked Max Domi, who is the Maple Leafs enforcer type of player. Ostapchuk cross-checked him near the boards, and he definitely picked the wrong guy to do that to. The Maple Leafs struggling in the game at that point were visibly getting frustrated, especially Max Domi, and that cross-check was the last straw for him. Domi immediately got up and tried to fight Ostapchuk. Ostapchuk was trying to skate away and wasn't wanting to fight. Domi still went after Ostapchuk, punching him from behind. The referee stepped in and Domi still kept throwing punches. Ostapchuk did get a penalty for the cross check, but Domi trying to fight him resulted in Domi getting... he got a 10-minute game misconduct that kept him out for most of the third period. Was definitely the right call. Domi threw a couple of cheap shot punches even while the refs were trying to hold him back. A couple of punches were from behind as well. That breaks the code, as Ross Bernstein called it in his book. Domi trying to fight a player that wasn't willing to fight him. That's a big penalty in hockey, especially today. As for Barclay Goodrow, he was not involved in any fights, unlike the previous game versus the Bruins, where he got in the fight with Jacob Lauko. He had a pretty good game as a penalty killer. There were a couple of power plays for the Leafs that the Sharks did a good job killing, most notably the one where Graf scored his shorthanded goal. And Goodrow was very active and involved whenever the Sharks needed to kill the extra player scenarios. He blocked a couple of shots. One he blocked definitely stung him. It hurt in the moment. He had to step out of the game for a bit. Fortunately, he ended up being okay as he returned to the game and continued to do well, helping the Sharks defensively to kill penalties as best as he could. Give credit to Barclay Goodrow. He is arguably the Sharks' best penalty killer. Goalkeeper, B. Alexander Georgiev was the starting goalkeeper for the Sharks in this game. He not only forgaved again, conceding 4 goals in total. In total, he conceded 5 goals, actually, so he 5-gaved. He did make some good saves in this game, had some good moments, but there were a couple of goals that he definitely should have stopped. The goal conceded to Austin Matthews was definitely a weak one to concede. So was the goal by Scott Lawton. And how he performed in the final minute where the Maple Leafs made that comeback definitely was not a good look for him either. However, Sharks fans also can't be entirely mad about his performance either, as he did have some really good moments as well. Prior to the game-tying goal in the final seconds of the third period, Georgiev made a really good save on Austin Matthews. He also had a couple of good saves in the 4-versus-4 overtime. For those who saw my highlight video from the overtime period, he had some very good saves there. And then, of course, he played at his best when it mattered most in that penalty shootout. He made 2 good saves, the first against Austin Matthews, the Maple Leafs captain and best goal scorer, and then against Mitch Marner to win the game. Georgiev finished the game with 30 saves on 35 shots total and a save percentage of 85.7%. Made some mistakes, but still had some good moments and did just enough to win the game for the Sharks. And of course, at least he didn't shoot a puck off an opposing player's skate like Joseph Woll did. Head coach, A. Head coach Ryan Warsofsky gets another big win against a strong playoff team, and this is his second win against a Canadian team this year. He is finally getting his team to do well against the 7 Canadian teams in the league. A good step in the right direction for the young coach. I also really like his decision-making in overtime and in the shootout. When they lost in overtime against Winnipeg, Warsofsky was criticized for his very questionable decision of starting his third-line players against the Jets' top line and the best players they had. And it didn't end well, as the Sharks lost immediately in the first 40 seconds of overtime in that game. In this game, however, just like the previous game versus Toronto that also went into overtime, Warsofsky put his best defenders and forwards on the ice for the overtime period. This shows growth in Warsofsky as a head coach, learning and improving from his mistakes, and not even considering making a decision like he did versus Winnipeg. I also really like how he decided to have Celebrini and Smitty take the 2 penalty shots. For the Sharks, he could have gone with an older, more veteran player like Toffoli, who had a really good game, or Alex Wennberg. But instead, he chose his 2 youngest players. I really like how he was willing to trust and believe in his young players and their talent, even in game deciding scenarios like this. I love how he is becoming more willing to utilize his best young players, and we saw that in both the penalty shootout and in the lineups, as Eklund, Celebrini, and Smith were once again on the top line. They made the top line trio, and it worked well as they played well. Warsofsky had a good game plan and got his team to outplay the Maple Leafs and Ryan Warsofsky himself outcoached the Maple Leafs as well. Final score, Sharks win 6-5, 2-1 in the penalty shootout against the Toronto Maple Leafs in the penalty shootout. For the Sharks' overall team grade, I'll give them an A-. I like how the offense played, and the defense even contributed as well with good passing and assists. The Sharks did make it a bit stressful at the end. They made it harder than it should have been to win this game, but fortunately for them, the Leafs did not play well. They made a lot of mistakes themselves, and the Sharks were able to capitalize on those errors and outplayed them. As for the Maple Leafs, it's another ugly loss after already losing to the Predators prior to this game. And this time, they lose to the youngest team and currently the worst team in the league. Yikers. The Leafs leafed harder than Georgiev could ever forgive. Or in this case, even 5-Gev. And the San Jose Sharks sweep the Toronto Maple Leafs in the season series. Sorry, I had to make that joke at the end, guys. I couldn't resist it. It's just, as much as I want the Maple Leafs team to succeed, I really have not seen a team with so much talent underwhelm and choke more than the Maple Leafs. They really are the Dallas Cowboys of the NHL. I just have that feeling that another round of 16 exit is coming for them. But for the Sharks, they might be the most fun, exciting, and entertaining last place team in NHL history. They may not be at playoff level yet, but the future is teal, and this game showed us that. It was a good game, a great night with my family, and I was again lucky to get a puck from the game. Finally, from a game against a Canadian team that we won against as well. So this is one I will definitely keep safe in the collection. That is all for this video, guys. Leave a like if you enjoy the hockey content and subscribe to support my channel. The next game for the Sharks against a Canadian team will be on Thursday, April 3rd against Connor McDavid and the Edmonton Oilers. So we'll see what happens next. That's all for this episode. Thanks for watching this video, guys. Go Sharks.